Ethan's Grand Adventure by Brett. Chapter 1, The Arrival. Once upon a time, in some disgraceful apartment complex in New Jersey, Ethan and his beloved spider mistress, Muffet, were cuddling on the sofa, watching their favorite movie, Cars 2. "Oh, Ethan-senpai, how I love you so," whispered Muffet as she rubbed her hand up Ethan's leg. Things were starting to cook as Ethan got turned on, and his boner started to scrape his zipper. "OWO, what's this?" shouted Muffet as she squeezed his pube-covered cock. "Oh, Muffet, don't do that, or I'll..." And Ethan came into her furry hand, moaning like a dying wombat. Muffet smirked as she licked the piss-cum mix on her hand and gave Ethan a very sexy look. Ethan looked back and suddenly pounced her, screaming, "I shower you with coconut cream pie," as he shoved his rock-hard dong into her spider pussy. They had violent sex for at least 19 hours before Ethan was totally wiped. Muffet gave him one last rim job and licked the shit crumbs from his anus. They laid next to each other and leaned in to kiss. Suddenly, Ethan sprang up as he heard the distant sound of autistic wailing. Ethan jumped into his clothes and started to feel unsafe. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" said Muffet, covering her body with Ethan's bonsai buddy blanket. Ethan looked at her in fear. "He's coming!" Then, right out of the fucking blue, Alzar crashed through the window, letting out a mighty screech. He kicked Muffet's fucking teeth in and ate her limbs like French fries. Then he slowly turned his head to Ethan as Muffet sought shelter behind Ethan. Ethan looked at him with pure absolute despair. "Fuck niggers," Alzar screamed, rushing towards them with a beastly grin. Ethan grabbed Muffet and ran to the safest place he knew, his waifu room. He locked the doors, and Alzar banged on the door like a toddler trying to get away from a beating. Ethan soothed Muffet by singing his favorite song to her, the Seven Granddad theme. They were scared as hell, and Ethan already had filled his pants with greasy diarrhea. Suddenly, Alzar screamed, "Fucking Minecraft sucks!" Silence. Ethan opened the door slowly and looked Alzar straight in the eyeballs and whispered angrily, "What did you say about Minecraft?" Alzar had no fear as he brought the cube up and crushed it. Ethan let out a primal scream, "Stop griefing!" as he shoved his fist into Alzar's dick, making him screech like a terminally autistic baby. Alzar fought back, another Ethan on the ground, and screamed, "Are you fucking retarded or something?" Ethan got back up, replying with, That's considered bullying, sir!" And ebictly socked him in the throat, making him collapse to the floor and have a legendary seizure. Ethan stood over Alzar and looked at him. Pathetic. Suddenly, Alzar smiled disgustingly and screamed, "I'm not out yet!" and thrust his teeth into Ethan's leg, making Ethan scream like a banshee. Alzar laughed uncontrollably as his eyes rolled back into his head, screaming louder, "Hey, beat her!" with every hit. Ethan couldn't stand it any longer. He couldn't be defeated by some filthy degenerate. He let out a loud and assertive scream and started to barrage Alzar with dick punches. "Ah! One! Ah! One! Ah! One! Ah! One! Ah! One!" A nuclear explosion emerged from the retarded battle and destroyed everything in its path. Ethan flew down from the sky, his eyes tired and arms heavy, and his mom's spaghetti. He smiled and nodded, knowing his fate. He only had enough energy to say his final words as he looked up at Alzar's lifeless body. "Your mom's gay, lol." He crashed into the ocean and sunk. Chapter 2, Ocean Man. As Ethan descended deeper into the sea, his remaining consciousness began to slowly fade away. There was no hope left, or so he thought. A majestic creature swooped him up and carried him to the palace of Loffergeorge, an ancient but living underwater city, complete with a temple and SpongeBob shrine. The creature laid Ethan on a bed of flakes, and it filled his lungs with air. Ethan's eyes opened, and he sprung up. "What the fuck?" he screamed. The creature, a merman with a bushy beard and a thick ass, looked at him with his golden eyes. My boy, you are on Loffer, George, the greatest and most thriving place in the sea. I saved you from drowning as I saw your lifeless body float down a crevice. Ethan was bamboozled and scratched his head. Yeah, sure, whatever. He got up and looked around, admiring the statues of varied SpongeBob characters, such as Larry the Lobster and Gary. Come, I have a solution for your trouble, said the merman, and by the way, my name is Bart. Ethan followed Bart to a huge church, with fish monks and slutty starfish surrounding it. This is a ritual we perform every day to make sure humans like you do not stay down here, said Bart. Just follow our lead. Then a great humming came over the crowd. Ethan could not make out what they were saying, so he just mumbled to lyrics to Take On Me. The crowd started to scream, "Oh yeah, Mr. Krabs!" with the sound echoing in the sacred building. Ethan followed along until the chanting stopped. Silence ensued for about 20 seconds. Bart then said, "Farewell, visitor." Ethan was flung to the ocean's surface at radical speeds, and then came up from the sea, landing on the border of a city in Florida. Ethan groaned and shimmied the water off of himself and stood up. Am I on fucking crack or something? He asked himself. However, he proceeded to check in at a hotel with the little money he had from beating a toddler to death, and rest. Chapter 3. Chicken Strip. Meanwhile, somewhere in the underground tunnels of Bangladesh, a figure appeared in his home. It was Alzar. Holy fucking shit, that guy was autistic, he said to his trusty servant Travion. Well, master, aren't you as well? Travion replied. Oh, shut the fuck up, you filthy nigger, he shouted, throwing a skateboard wheel at him. Okay, I'm sorry, said the servant. Alzar sat down at his desk, which was a piece of plywood on top of a toilet, and sighed with frustration. How the hell did he almost beat me? That guy... Wait. How the hell did he almost beat me? That guy just looks up Undertale shit and has 4 terabytes of hentai. Alzar kicked the wall with his dirty shoes, screaming like a retarded baby. His apprentice, Chad, nonchalantly walked in. Oh, hey, Alzar, he said in his usual monotone voice. Chad, don't I look like I can beat that Ethan dude? Alzar said, looking at Chad with an autistic glare. Alzar, you look like a chicken strip, Chad replied. Alzar face-palmed and groaned. I'll have to devise a new way to beat him, and actually be successful in his defeat. Alzar had been trying to beat him since he was born, even going as far to kick his face in when he was a baby. However, Ethan only suffered brain damage from that. Alzar had been trying to get something that was hidden inside Ethan's soul, the legendary beater meme. Only Alzar knew about this, as he can sense the greatest memes, even in the shittiest of people. He is powered by memes and his self-taught sound-breaking screech. Alzar knew he had to get that meme, as it would fully power him into be the ultimate shitlord. If I want to become the ultimate shitlord, I have to beat Ethan. But to beat Ethan, I need the... Suddenly, a light bulb lit above Alzar's head. If he was going to beat Ethan, he would first have to collect the charisma... What? The charisma chromosomes, with 5 powerful chromosomes that would give Alzar the power he needed to beat Ethan once and for all. He shot up from the piss-stained ground and darted up the ladder. Chad, we're going on Chad, we're going on a little trip, broski. They set off to find the charisma chromosomes. Chapter 4. The chase begins. Ethan sat down at a table in Denny's, sipping his milk and watching various videos of Toad screaming. He noticed as he looked at his plate that he had run out of bacon. He started to get furious as he bust through the manager's office doors. Where's my fucking bacon, you stupid bitch? He screamed. The manager, a 37-year-old hag with an AC/DC tattoo on her leg, turned around with a bewildered look. Ethan angrily hyperventilated as he couldn't wait for his next supply of meat and grease. "What the shit are you doing?" shouted the manager, reaching for her gun. Ethan grabbed her by her collar and shook her like a fucking apartment fan. He looked her dead in the eyes. "Now you listen to me, you wrinkly old whore. Ever since I fought Alzar, my mouth and dick have been itching for some greasy meat from a lady." The manager stopped him in his speech. Did you say Alzar?" she asked. Ethan froze. "What do you mean?" he replied, getting suspicious. The manager backed away and leaned against the wall. "I remember him. He killed my daughter." Ethan raised his sweaty eyebrow. "He did? How?" he questioned. She sighed and sat down in her rusty swivel chair. "It was 2003, and we had just gotten a new computer with a program called MS Paint. My daughter loved it, and always loved drawing cats and dolphins," she said, lighting a cigarette. Ethan sat down on a box of confiscated child porn magazines. "One day, at about 7 at night, my daughter was on the computer as usual. A boy with a shirt over his head busted through the window and met my daughter. He erased her drawing and started to get our family photos and lower the quality and zoom in on the faces. He asked my daughter if she liked them, and fortunately for her, she said no. That's when he got the monitor and beat her over the head with it, screeching the entire time. By the time I'd gotten up there, it was too late." The lady shed a tear and looked at Ethan, who had been looking at the magazines the entirety of the story. "Are you even paying attention, jackass?" she yelled. Ethan looked up and wiped the huge puddle of semen from his pants. "No, I just didn't fucking care," he replied. The manager rolled her eyes. "Look, if you want to beat Alzar, you're going to need to collect the 5 charisma chromosomes," she said. Ethan had no fucking clue what she was talking about. She continued to inform him, saying, "There are 5 extra chromosomes scattered throughout the galaxy. I can only tell you where the first one is. If you're able to collect them all, you can stop Alzar from whatever retarded plot he has in store." She gave him a secret map the size of a gum wrapper, with an X marked on London, England. "So England is my city to go," he said. The lady nodded, giving him her good luck charm, which was a bag of stale Cheetos. "Good luck on your journey, and whatever you do, do not come back to this location, or I will call the police," she exclaimed. Ethan shoved the map into his pocket and began his quest for the first charisma chromosome. The chase was on. Chapter 5. Lost and Found. As Ethan and Alzar were both on separate journeys to find the charisma chromosomes, each with a shared reason: to stop each other. Alzar and his apprentice had already used a subway and a plane to travel to London, as while Ethan stole a cruise ship from a captain by throwing him into the propeller blades. Unfortunately for Alzar, a beastly storm had developed in the clouds, making the plane unstable. It swayed left and right until finally lightning struck the plane's nose, sending it into a dive. "Son of a bitch!" Alzar screamed as the plane rapidly fell from the sky and soon landed in a field in the middle of nowhere. Alzar did not know how the fuck the plane survived something like that, but he shook it off. From there, he and Chad kept traveling, only to stop to rest or rape a cow. Meanwhile, Ethan was doing just fine in his quest for the first chromosome. In fact, he had already found the place where it was hidden, inside of a small electronics shop. A declining H.H. Gregg, the chromosome glowed with a heavenly light through the iPhones and cases. Ethan gasped. "That must be the first one!" he exclaimed, dashing to it. Suddenly, one of the employees stopped him in his tracks. "Now there, little guy, you're gonna have to pay to get that thing. Stuff here ain't free," he said. Ethan grimaced. "Shut the heck up, you beast!" he shouted, kicking the employee's dick in. He took the chromosome and left the employee to suffer with his world of pain. Ethan escaped the store in a quick matter of time and hid behind a shed. Suddenly, the chromosome started to glow and floated above Ethan. It shot out a map of the world with a circle around the location of the next one. Regulus, a bright star halfway across the galaxy. "Ah, shit," said Ethan. "How the fuck am I gonna get there?" The chromosome then glowed brighter. and sucked Ethan into a portal, taking itself with him. Ethan was now in the territory of the star. Ethan let out a scream of terror as his skin began to boil and he started to lose his vision from the immense brightness. Fortunately, the chromosome put a shield of Down syndrome around him, started to move him towards the second chromosome. As that was happening, Alzar and Chad were tearing through the store. Ethan was desperately searching for the chromosome. As Alzar ripped through the boxes of fragile electronics, he started to get angry. "Where the actual fuck is it?" he screeched, kicking the already writhing employee in the balls, crushing them to a paste. "Fuck!" Alzar said, flying out the window with Chad following behind. He had to find those chromosomes, if it's the last thing he did. Chapter 6. Alzar's Redemption. As Ethan and his shield charged towards the star with increasing speed, he started to see a lightly different shaded glow. "That has to be the second one," he thought. He smirked and reached his hand out and grabbed the chromosome. Just like the first one did, a map protruded from it, making the location of a distant planet called AC 3773. Ethan jumped into the next portal with the 2 chromosomes. However, as he reached the end of the portal, he saw something terrible. It was his arch-nemesis and professional jackass Alzar. And in the grip firm of his unwashed hands, the 3rd chromosome lay. Alzar noticed Ethan, and they both glared at each other until it got kind of awkward. "Ah, Ethan, that's too bad. I already have the 3rd one," Alzar taunted, twirling the chromosome around his finger. "Yeah, I see it. Do you think I'm fucking retarded or something?" Ethan replied. Alzar frowned at him. "And how did you even get here? Did you travel through a portal like me?" Ethan asked reverently. Alzar replied with, "No, I just got high on a mix of crack and cyanide. Somehow ended up here. But anyways." Alzar looked at the map that shot out from the chromosome as it marked the next location, a temple on another planet named HB 8921, and smiled evilly as the portal opened. "Gotta go. See you later, alligator," he exclaimed, rushing into the portal. Ethan ran after him, barely making it into the portal before it sealed shut. Alzar traveled faster by using his seizure kicks and disappeared. As Ethan still surged through the portal, he wiped the sweat off of his forehead, and he knew that he had to find that damn 4th chromosome. As he exited the portal, Alzar wasn't seen anywhere, along with his apprentice. Ethan sucked in his gut and tightened his belt and ran for the horizon, hoping to find the next chromosome. Chapter 7. Little Yellow Shits. As Ethan treaded along the dry surface of the planet, he saw 2 figures in the distance. They looked like they were merging together in some way, but he couldn't tell. As he got closer, he could start to make out the 2 shapes. Goggles, frayed hairs. Dear God, it's them, Ethan thought. It was Phil and Frank, 2 minions that were hyper-homos. Ethan was disgusted as he saw them fucking like wild animals, covered in a shit-semen mix. "Can you guys, stop?" pleaded Ethan, as he swallowed his vomit back down his throat. The 2 little yellow shits looked at him angrily and propped themselves up. "What the hell do you want, you big fat phony?" said Frank in a stern and gargly voice. Ethan shook his head and sighed. "Look, I'm just here for an autist named Alzar. Have y'all seen him yet? He's yay tall, wears a shirt over his head, looks like his mother threw him out of a window when he was born," Ethan stated. The minions looked at each other, then looked at Ethan. "I think I did see him screeching down that road over there," Phil said, pointing to a piss-covered pathway, leading further into the horizon of the purple and orange sunset. Ethan cracked his knuckles and gave the thumbs up to the minions, and prepared to run. However, the minions had different plans. "Now hold on, mister. You can't just get free information from us and leave like that," said Frank. "You gotta give us, payment." Phil and Frank licked their crusty lips and rushed towards Ethan, screaming their psychedelic chant, "Banana, banana, banana!" Ethan screamed in absolute fucking terror as they charged towards him with their rock-hard, bleeding pubic banana cocks. Ethan thought it was over and braced for impact. Suddenly, something or someone kicked them away into the stratosphere, never to be seen again. The person turned to Ethan, who was whimpering. "Ethan, get the hell up," said the figure. Ethan recognized his voice as soon as he heard it. It was his strongest ally, Cole. Cole helped Ethan up and brushed him off. "What the fuck are you doing on this distant planet this far out in the galaxy?" asked Cole. Ethan caught his breath and looked up at Cole. "I'm trying to find Alzar and collect the charisma chromosomes, or whatever the fuck they're called," Ethan replied. Cole looked at the piss-covered road and closed his eyes, wanting to kill himself. "Please do not tell me he made that," he groaned, pointing at it. Ethan let out a truly cringeworthy laugh and snickered. "You bet that's it, Broseph." From there, Ethan and Cole continued on the journey to find Alzar and get the charisma chromosomes. Chapter 8. Ethan's Failed Redemption. Ethan and Cole had been traveling for 2 weeks, only eating shitty protein bars and curdled milk. They had strayed from the road that Alzar paved and went their own way. They saw a huge cliffside and decided to take shelter under it, as it was quite hot. Ethan propped his head up against a rock and put his Undertale soundtrack on, and Cole whipped out his 3DS and played Smash. Ethan opened his eyes and noticed something above him. It was glowing, just like a charisma chromosome! Ethan screamed, piercing Cole's ears. The 4th chromosome had been right over them, and fortunately Ethan noticed it. Cole angrily wiped the blood dripping from his earlobes and patiently lifted Ethan up to grab the chromosome. As he came back down, a loud stock noise bursted from behind them. It was Alzar, and he just missed his chance. Ethan laughed and mocked Alzar for his stupidity, and Alzar looked at the ground in frustration. He had had enough and shot a mighty HIV laser out of his hand, striking Cole to the ground, giving him hyperherpes and jungle dick. Cole was helpless as he writhed on the ground, scratching feverishly. Ethan ceased to laugh and stared at Alzar in fear, starting to brace himself. Alzar suddenly teleported behind Ethan. "Nothing personal, kid," he whispered. He kneed Ethan in the spine and ripped the chromosome away from him. Ethan plopped on the ground and flopped around like a fish. Alzar screeched in laughter. "Who's laughing now, you stupid doo-doo head?" Alzar exclaimed, floating to the sky. He looked at the final map and lowered his glasses. The final chromosome was back on Earth in a closet inside of a room of a children's hospital in San Francisco. He cackled and flew into his last portal, and it closed. Ethan sobbed over Cole's body, grieving. Cole pushed him away. "Unless you want hyperherpes, I suggest you get off," he said. Cole pulled a device out of his pocket and gave it to Ethan. "This is a one-time portal device that you need for the plot of this shitty story," Cole said, pointing to a coordination pad and the open portal button. Ethan understood what he had to do. Cole turned to dust and gave his final farewell, a flip of the bird. Ethan stood to his feet and shed a tear from his eye. He set the coordinates for San Francisco, opened the portal, and made his final trip for the last chromosome. Chapter 9. 2 Types of Cancer. As Ethan landed on the ground and the portal closed, he hitched a car ride from a pedophile and made his way to the hospital. He looked up at the sky and saw a brown streak. Alzar. He yelled at the man to speed up and promised some thick kindergarten ass as a reward. Ethan made it to his final destination and dashed into the building. He pushed sick children and pregnant women out of his way, making his way up the stairs, as elevators are for normies. He searched every room for the last chromosome, but had no luck. As he reached the end of the hallway, he looked inside room 125 and saw it, but it was too late. Alzar had it in his grasp, and he munched on a fetus as he spun the chromosome in his hand. Ethan dropped to his knees, disappointed at himself. Alzar licked the leftover placenta from his fingertips and arranged the five charisma chromosomes around him. They floated and spun around him, increasing speed rapidly. "Now that I have all the chromosomes, I can finally claim the last and greatest meme for you," and I will become the ultimate shitlord. A burst of superheated energy from him. His eyes started to flare with red lasers. A giant bee emoji appeared on his shirt, and he let out a great screech, with the whole world hearing it. Ethan lay hopelessly on the floor as Alzar burst through the ceiling into the sky. He let out another mighty screech and sucked every meme in existence from the world and absorbed it into him. Ethan lay in his own sadness. He was ready to accept defeat. Then he heard a voice. "Come on, cutie pie, you can do it." Muffet, he heard. Then another. "Beat that asshole like you beat your meat." It was Cole. "Don't let that jackass invade your swamp." Shrek. "Smash him, Laz. He downloads boobies onto my computer." Kermit. Ethan's eyes opened, and he rose above the clouds to Alzar's level. A bright light surrounded him, and the memes soared to his aid. Deep fried, bottom text, ghetto, 2012, MS Paint. As they circled around him, he curled up his body, and they shot inside of him. He expanded Dong beyond all odds and became Alzar's worst nightmare. Extravagant Ethan. Chapter 10. The Final Swoosh. Ethan glowed and looked at Alzar with a deadly glare. Alzar sweat nervously, but readied himself for the greatest foe he'd ever face. "Well then, broski, this might actually be a challenge," he exclaimed, getting in his fighting stance. Ethan crossed his arm and tilted his head, looking at Alzar. "Alzar, you have caused me great pain to go through, trouble, and trials to stop you. But now I will accomplish my goal. I will defeat you and reclaim the charisma chromosomes. I will bring back Muffet and Cole and all the other people that you've taken from me. Shit. Well, I guess that's it. But your time's over, Alzar." Ethan finished his brief speech and flew towards Alzar with a fistful of bottom text. He socked Alzar right in the banoodles and kicked him up into the higher sky. Alzar flipped to stop his ascent and flung a Behringer beater mask at Ethan. Ethan was struck, but continued to fight. Clouds and lightning of fire began to swirl around their totally epic battle, and cosmic wind blew heavily. Ethan threw a deep-fried doggo at Alzar. However, Alzar deflected it with relative ease. Alzar pulled out his coconut gun and fired in spurts. He shot Ethan, and it hurt. Ethan and Alzar floated in the sky. Ethan and Alzar floated in the eye of the storm, staring each other down. Then they both charged at each other at full speed, and white light surrounded the scene. Silence. Ethan was able to get behind Alzar and whispered into his ear, "Omae wa mo shinderu." "Nani?" Alzar screamed. Ethan curled up and spun in a light speedball, uncurled, and used all of his strength and power to bash Alzar's skull in with his sketchers. Alzar flew to the ground and smashed it, leaving a giant crater. With Alzar's now demolished body in the center, Ethan floated down to him and bent down. "You just got nay-nayed," Ethan shouted, striking a pose. Alzar's power left him, and his shirt, after 4,000 years, came down from his head. He was no longer Alzar, but only a mere shell of what he was. He was now just Brett. Ethan flew into the sky and released the charisma chromosomes back to their native lands. He brought back his loved ones, including Cole and Muffet. He flew them home, and then he took to the skies independently. Throughout his journey, he had witnessed and done great things. He had done the impossible. He had beaten Alzar and stopped his chaos. He was Ethan Poole, the protector of autism, the guardian of memes, and the true ultimate shitlord. And this was his story.